Everyone, welcome back. It's been a few days since I have done a video, so my apologies for that. A few reasons. It's been flat out here in the household, trying to just with work and getting some of the social media stuff up and going like I want, but also being really tired and fatigued on the bike. So yeah, so I have done a couple of rides, but let's be honest, it wasn't worth probably uploading, or maybe the information might have been good. I have still got them. Basically, Mondays was a 2 by 20 minute sweet spot over and under. And keep in mind, this is my third week of loading. So, bit sore and getting tired, and with everything that's been going on with the last week with just life stuff, getting stuff done. It's just been a week like I would not normally experience. And so, yeah, not feeling that good. Like, I went through the first 20-minute sweet spot, no worries. Got stuck into the second one and just wasn't feeling super great. The heart rate was up a bit and too close. Didn't get the threshold, but it was too close for a sweet spot. And even the legs just felt, it was just too heavy. My body was saying this is not right. So I was going to do me. I looked at what the next day was, which was some VO2 work. So I just pulled the pin, did a bit of a light recovery ride on the Monday, and then went into yesterday feeling no better. Like, still legs still like sore. So, as in sore to touch, like tender muscles. But anyway, I went into that, went through, done the first part of the VO2 sessions, which was really low. Actually, it's not sure. I'll have to maybe follow up with the coach that gave them to me, have a little bit more of a chat, because they're only at 104%, which is almost threshold. 105% sort of starts VO2 for me of FTP. So anyway, still wasn't feeling it at all. So shut it down. And I said in those videos, I may not even continue on loading this week. I might just freshen up, which is what I'm going to do. So recovery ride today. I'll do some short, sharp little openers tomorrow. Friday will either be a recovery ride, a day off, and don't know what I'll do on the weekend. I'll either do a test or some races, just to see where we're at. But I can tell you, even though I'm not putting out any watts now, my body feels 100% compared to the last few days. So light one today, a little bit of just some 30 seconds on and offs tomorrow, and then another light one on Friday, and we'll just see what happens on the weekend. We'll certainly have a crack at something, whether it's a race or chase some KOMs or something entertaining for those of you that like to watch these videos. Anyway, today's topic, I just thought I'd bring up and talk about CTL, ATL, TSB and TSS. These are commonly used like in Training Peaks, which is where I send all my data to, and lots of other apps will refer to them as, well, especially the TSS, Training Stress Score, will refer to them because you'll see at the bottom of each workout there's like a number, 35, 64, whatever it is, and that's your TSS, your Training Stress Score for that workout. Now, for those of you who don't know, lots of information out there on the net, but TSS, Training Stress Score, if you think of your FTP number, and if you were to ride flat out at that number, what your FTP power for 1 hour, that would give you a TSS of 100 for that workout. So for every hour, your full TSS is 100. So if you do a zone 2 ride, 65% for an hour, 65 TSS. Like just that's, you can work it out from there if you're wondering what that number is. Now that number feeds all the other things we're going to talk about today. Just to give you an idea, TSS, some people respond really well to training. So not all TSS is the same. You can get a high TSS number by doing just a long, comfortable zone 2 ride. Go ride all day and you'll get a high number, but you're not improving your threshold or VO2 work. So not all TSS is the same. You can't just have high TSS numbers every day and expect to win races. It doesn't work like that. So it's a combination of duration and intensity. You just got to work out what works best for you. Now, so to give you an idea, like I can get by on anywhere from like 400 to 600 if I'm having that's me even doing some loading weeks. I know if I go over 800 TSS in a week, I can feel sore, but I have to admit that's only been on inside. Most of I've had the power meter now for 2.5 years, 3 years. So I used to train all the time with heart rate before that. Since COVID has put down lockdowns in place, especially here in Australia, a lot of the riding's been done inside. So and there's not much movement. So if I do real long rides, I'm a lot more sore inside than I would be outside on the road. But yeah, I found inside anyway, if I do some bigger weeks and go over 800, I'm a bit sore. Now, some people are really gifted and can get by on less TSS, so spending less time on the bike, just doing either quality work or they just respond really well. So they don't have to do as much training to maintain or to improve. Other people might have to do heaps. It's just everyone is individual and unique. But yeah, so if I go over 800 on inside, I get a bit sore. To give you an idea of what some of the pros do, I read a good article last week, I think sometime. It was based on a pro, Chris and Sorensen, and it's going back a few years, but I think it was in the first week of Tour de France, over 7 days anyway. He'd done 1,700 and something TSS. That is just huge. So if you remember what we said, 100 TSS is your FTP for an hour. So 1,750 TSS is like 250 a day. Imagine riding at your threshold for 2.5 hours. Clearly you can't because it's meant to be your 1 hour power, but imagine like a 4 hour zone 2 ride every day. Like you're looking at almost 30 hours of riding in a week to get that. And if I go over 10, I'm having a good week. Although it's more quality than just quantity these days, but still. So that's TSS. How much stress the body has gone under for the training that you're doing. And I should note too that with the power meter, your TSS is pretty accurate because you're actually measuring. It's a calculated measurement. There's no sort of real guesswork. It's a known value of energy expenditure going into the pedals. So if you've got your age, your weight, your height, everything else correct, and your FTP correct, got to have your FTP right, then your number's going to be really spot on. I know if I've ever done some little HIIT workouts or running or walking, and I've just used my heart rate monitor because I don't have a foot pod or anything. I'm not really into running and that serious, but heart rate TSS will add a lot to my training peaks, and it can skew my numbers with what I'm about to talk to you about. But so we'll come back to it. Let me get through these other ones, and I'll explain how other exercise can really affect these numbers. So CTL, chronic training load. This is a rolling 42-day average. So 6 weeks. It's your average daily TSS for 6 weeks, the last 6 weeks you've done. And you might find that can be bloody hard to increase because it either takes intensity or duration to up that number. Now, you don't always have to ride longer. If you do an FTP test and you get a higher number and you were only training 8 hours a week, well, by training just that 8 hours a week going forward at a higher FTP number, your training stress score is going to be higher. So, like, you're actually putting out more effort for the same time given. So, it is a combination between intensity and duration. But yeah, so a rolling 42-day average. ATL, acute training load, is your fatigue state, basically. So CTL is it's usually classed as your fitness. And ATL is classed as your fatigue, but it's like your last 7 days of TSS. So CTL is your overall fitness, a bit of a bigger picture of what's going on. ATL, your last 7 days, how hard have you been working? Have you been cruising for 4 weeks and then you've really started to pick it up and the last week's been really full on? You can have a look at that number and go, oh, that's why I'm feeling a bit tired. Look how much work I've done in the last week. So it gives you a picture of recent CTL, like a bigger picture of what's going on. Now, TSB is your training stress balance. So basically, it's your CTL minus your ATL. And it gives you it's basically normally classed as your form. Like, now, a lot of times training, I know with training peaks, you go sort of minus 30, in other words, so your fatigue has got you in such a negative value, like it's so much higher than your fitness value that, and a lot of the time, most of the time when I'm training, I'm always negative, but if you go, you get up to 30 or more, minus 30, it's basically telling you you might need a rest. It's you're pretty full on for your general fitness. Your fatigue state is fairly high, and a rest day or two or a light day will fix that right up. You'll be back there. Usually, you only ever want to go positive if you want to really perform well. So you got a race, more likely, or if you want to freshen up for a test. It's not always necessarily the dumb thing to freshen up for a test, because you want to know where you're at, when you're training and you're racing. So that's normally the races that you really freshen up for. But and that's where you can look at your TSB, and you can sort of taper 1 week or 2 weeks out and start to really freshen up and get that number in a positive, which would mean you should be feeling a bit fresh. You should be feeling fresh and hopefully stronger, because the fatigue that you've been experiencing over the last week or so is certainly a lot less than what you would normally have. And your fatigue will drop quicker than your fitness. So your ATL number will drop quicker than your CTL number. Hence the reason for a little period of time there, you will get a positive TSB number. If you look this up on the internet, you'll have a lot more scientific type reviews on it. I'm just trying to explain it to you, and it's just a good topic today because of where I'm at. So people can vary with their TSB number. Some people will perform great at like +5, like just over 0. Other people might want to see 25, really fresh. You just got to be careful that you don't lose too much fitness, CTL, because this is what you've been working hard to build up. Everyone's different, and unfortunately you just have to play around and see what works best for you. But this is where having a history and training peaks, this is what obviously everything I put in there, it's just great. You get a really good history. And when you do have a day where you just feel great, you can look back and just see what you've done for the month prior. And if you save as much data as you can, it can just feel like you can see really good, like whether it's your food as well as your training, when did you back off. And you're going to have some wins and losses until you work out what works for you. Like years ago, I used to do certain programs, and I just remember on certain days my legs would I would just feel unstoppable. Only ever happened a couple of times in my life where I just, on the day, it was like, oh my God. But this was, and I knew roughly I knew the training I was doing, but it was all just heart rate and no power. I wasn't performing at the level I can now, I know that for sure. Even though I was serious with training, I wasn't as crazy and serious as I am now, but I always still gave 100%. So I never shortchanged myself or my coaches. But this is a bit different now, having the power to see as well, so just another number, but having things on the screen in front of you to chase, like that next banner, or just seeing that you can, knowing how hard it is now, how hard you have to work for just the little smallest gains, to see the numbers on the screen, and also to be doing it and have you guys watching. Like, I don't really think I can go any harder, because flat out, like, whether you were watching or not, I go to the limit. But yeah, it's like, I just think I perform better now, and I weigh a lot lighter. I was just a track rider early on, so don't know what I look like on camera, but I was certainly a little more chunky back then. But no altitude, no, like, just flat around the track. So as soon as you wind the gear up, it's just all go, and save a really short, sharp distance as well. So, but yeah, I just thought we touch base on that, because I guess it's been a bit hard with COVID, with no real races outside to really aim for and freshen up for. That's when I really focus on those numbers. So I look at my TSS daily, because I want to build up over the course of, depending on how long the plan is, but usually I do at least 3 weeks of loading, then I rest, and then either continue on with the plan or start it again, or whatever's happening. But 3 weeks on, 1 week off, and that really affects those other numbers. So I used to live by them when I'm planning for a race. Not so much indoor Zwifting, like over the next week we might just do some races, but I'm not even going to freshen up for a Zwift race. I'm just going to either feel like doing one on the day, so it's something for you guys to watch, or I'll have done a training block. I just want a week of something different, so I'll have a Zwift racing. So although the racing is important to me and I'll always go as hard as I can, yeah, I don't know, I just prefer the structured training plan, and I can't do both in a day. If I could, I'm going to not do well in the race, that's for sure. It's just too much riding in a day. So, but yeah, so my CTL over the last few days, without doing the stress that I meant to, has dropped down a lot. So I'm I won't give too much away here, but so where I'd normally be in a really negative TSB number, I'm positive 10. So I am basically fresh for a really hard race or ride, because I've had almost 2 days off. But my stress scores for the last 2 days should have been really high. I had 50 on Monday. I did 22 yesterday. Like I freshened up like you wouldn't believe. So this is not going to do anything for me. This one's going to be a light ride. Little bit of a workout tomorrow, not much. Another probably light ride, and then I'll be really fresh on the weekend. But my fitness will have dropped down a little bit because I'm not meant to be freshening up now as part of my program. So, but to force myself through this week, I just couldn't do it. So now I don't know whether it's from the higher intensities that I'm doing, or that ride early last week took its toll, and I never recovered properly because I kept pushing myself, or whether it's just everything going on in the last week which normally wouldn't be going on, which has just felt like there hasn't been enough hours in the day. So lots of contributing factors, no idea which one it was, but for the last 2 days it just wasn't worth forcing myself through the workouts. I could have made it through Mondays. I don't think I would have made it through yesterday's because it had 28 minutes of VO2 work in total. That's a lot when you're feeling good. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll drag this ride out to 30 minutes, so we'll keep having a chat and I'll switch off, but I'll keep rolling for a bit because I feel really good. It's amazing how just a couple of days can make you feel different. Like my legs actually feel like 80% strong. And yesterday and the day before, it's like, oh, better find a new sport. It was it's night and day. And that's what happens if you're pushing and you just can't be at your best every day. And I might have to look at doing now at this intensity, I might have to look at doing a 2 week on, 1 week off type plan, and which I've never done, but I might do 2 weeks on, 1 week off. Don't know whether I'll test or just race. But I find those first 2 weeks of that you've been watching pretty full on. Like, but we'll see on the weekend whether my next test I'm meant to do is, because I usually like to do the 2 by 8, but I need to ride 390 for that next one, and that's, I just don't know how I'll go with that number. Well, so I need to be over 380 at least, but for the first 10-minute block, and then within 5% for the next 8-minute session. But 2 weeks of loading, freshening up a bit now. I just don't know if that improvement's going to be there, but I can always look at a couple of other things to do, and maybe just hold off for another month. I've seen some really good gains, so maybe wait another month before I do a test. But I could do something like go and do a 30-minute ride at my current FTP, just to prove to myself that that is my number, and that will I'll pay the price for the next day. I certainly know how I felt last time I did 30 minutes at my FTP. It's certainly got through it, but that was a much lower number than where I am now. That was when I was at 315, and I'm 340 at the moment. So if I can do 340 for half an hour, that would be a good feeling. And possibly it's the higher number, but when I say 390 for the 2x8, that sort of just rips into the legs and destroys it. But that's the same, 390 watts for 2 lots of 8 minutes is basically the same as riding 20 minutes for 370, which gives you an FTP number of 350. So I could just see how long I could ride at 350 for. And I guess anything above 20 minutes is a bonus. Keeping in mind, it's when I done after my last test, I had a week of doing some races, and I done 3 time trials. 2 of those were just over 23 minutes, and one was like just under 16. But I got 348 for 23 minutes. 346 and then 348. So 23 minutes. So 350 for 20 fresh should be doable. Of course, it's going to be uncomfortable, but that should be doable. And if I set this up as a workout instead of a test, I can actually create a workout that'll go for 30 minutes at 350 to home. If I could do 30 minutes at 350, I would certainly class that as my FTP. 30 minutes to 70 minutes, time to exhaustion can be classed as FTP. So I would certainly be changing my FTP to that, and then I would have to go on a two weeks on, 1 week off load training program to cope with that added intensity. But those CTL, ATL, TSB and TSS are real interesting when you understand them, and how, once again, it's when you see that form number, it can trick you. Just because you think something's true, sometimes you make it true. So, that's fine. You have a better day, who cares how you got it? It's all in your head. It's no worries. But interesting stuff. I know you can certainly have a pre-training peaks account, which lets you capture all this sort of stuff, and a premium one lets you do a few more things, edit some stuff here and there, and I think it's well worth the money. If you should at least, I would recommend anyway, joining up for the personal one, you just link, you can Zwift rods will go straight across to it, and you can just start capturing some data. Highly recommend it. And then we can capture as much data as you can every day about everything, sleep, food, whatever. And the when you have a rip-roaring day on the bike, what have you done for the previous month? Not necessarily week. You certainly need to look at that because you might have freshened up. Just have a look at why you perform so well. And the same thing when you have a shocker. Have a look. Why? What's going on? What were those numbers on the day? And could be what takes you to the next level. All right, we'll keep that nice and short and sharp. We'll keep pedaling because I feel good. And we'll jump back in tomorrow for a little short, sharp session. All right, enjoy. We'll talk soon.